On our wedding day, my fiancé chose my brother. Now she regrets her choice after facing his dark side. The day I had been dreaming of for years turned into my worst nightmare. I stood at the altar waiting for Emily, the woman I thought I would spend the rest of my life with. My heart raced with excitement as I imagined the moment she would walk down the aisle, her radiant smile lighting up the room. But that moment never came. Not in the way I expected. Instead, a murmur spread through the crowd. Confusion turned to unease as my brother, Ryan, appeared by my side, avoiding my eyes. He whispered something I couldn't immediately comprehend. "We need to talk." I followed him out of the hall, my heart pounding. When we reached the quiet corridor, he said the words that shattered my world. "Emily and we're in love." I froze, unable to process what I had just heard. "What are you talking about?" I demanded, my voice shaking with disbelief. Ryan looked guilty, but there was a hint of defiance in his eyes. "We didn't mean for it to happen, but it did. She's chosen me, and Mom and Dad support us." Hearing my parents were involved felt like a dagger twisting deeper into my chest. My parents had always favored Ryan, the golden child who could do no wrong. But this? How could they condone something so cruel? Emily appeared moments later, her face pale but resolute. "I'm sorry, Liam," she said, her voice trembling. "I didn't want it to happen this way, but I can't marry you. I love Ryan." Her words echoed in my mind, but I couldn't find a response. My world was crumbling before me, and everyone I trusted, my fiancé, my brother, and even my parents, was complicit in the betrayal. The rest of the day was a blur. Guests whispered, the ceremony was quietly canceled, and I left the venue, unable to face anyone. I spent weeks in isolation, replaying the events over and over in my mind, wondering how I could have been so blind. Years passed, and though the pain dulled, the scars remained. I focused on rebuilding my life, working tirelessly to create a future where their betrayal no longer defined me. I thought I had left it all behind, until Emily reached out to me out of the blue. Her message was desperate, almost incoherent. She wanted to meet, claiming she needed my help. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Part of me wanted answers, closure for the wounds she and my family had inflicted. But when I saw her again, I realized she wasn't the same confident woman who had left me at the altar. Her once bright eyes were clouded with fear, her voice trembling as she explained her situation. "Ryan isn't who you think he is," she began. Sitting across from Emily in the dimly lit cafe, I felt a swirl of emotions, anger, confusion, and an odd curiosity. It had been years since she had walked out of my life in the most humiliating way imaginable, yet here she was, asking for my help. Her once confident demeanor was gone. Instead, she looked like a shadow of her former self, frail, nervous, and constantly glancing over her shoulder. She wrapped her hands around the coffee cup as though it was the only thing grounding her. "Ryan isn't who you think he is," she repeated, her voice trembling. I leaned back, arms crossed, trying to keep my tone even. "And what does that have to do with me, Emily? You made your choice. You didn't just betray me. You humiliated me, you and Ryan. And now you want me to care?" She flinched, as though my words were physical blows, but she didn't look away. "I deserve that. I know I do. But I didn't come here for pity, Liam. I came because I don't know who else to turn to." Against my better judgment, I stayed. Something about the desperation in her voice kept me from walking away, even though I wanted to. I took a deep breath, trying to keep the bitterness in check. "Fine. Talk. Tell me what's so important that you'd come crawling back after all this time." Emily hesitated, glancing around the cafe again. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Ryan isn't the man I thought he was. When we got together, I thought I was in love. He was charming, confident, everything I thought I wanted. But after the wedding, everything changed." She paused, tears welling up in her eyes. "At first, it was small things. He'd get angry over nothing, accuse me of things I didn't do. He'd go through my phone, question me about every text, every call. He said it was because he loved me, that he just wanted to protect me, but it got worse. I didn't say anything, but my jaw tightened. It was hard to feel sympathy for her given what she'd done. But I also knew Ryan. While he was the golden child in my parents' eyes, I had seen glimpses of his darker side growing up. The manipulative streak, the need to control everyone around him. I just never thought he'd turn that on someone he supposedly loved. Emily continued, her voice barely audible. He started isolating me. At first, it was subtle, convincing me to cut ties with old friends, saying they didn't have our best interests at heart. Then he started controlling the finances. I don't have access to anything anymore, not even my own bank account. He monitors every move I make, and if I step out of line... She trailed off, visibly shaking. I frowned. If you step out of line, what? Does he hurt you? She nodded, tears streaming down her face. He's never hit me, but he doesn't have to. The way he yells, the way he breaks things when he's angry. I'm terrified of him, Liam. And now he's started threatening to hurt himself if I ever try to leave. I looked at her, trying to reconcile the image of this broken woman with the confident, carefree Emily I once knew. A part of me wanted to walk away, to tell her she had made her bed and now she had to lie in it. But another part of me, one I wasn't proud of, felt something close to pity. "And why come to me?" I asked finally. "Why not go to the police or your family?" She let out a bitter laugh. "The police? Ryan's too smart for that. He knows how to make me look like the unstable one, the one who's overreacting. And as for my family, they don't believe me. They think Ryan's perfect, just like your parents did." At the mention of my parents, a fresh wave of anger surged through me. They had been complicit in all of this, supporting Ryan and Emily's betrayal without a second thought. But now I wondered, had they seen this side of him? Did they know what he was capable of? "Liam," Emily said, her voice breaking, "I'm not asking you to forgive me. I know I don't deserve that. But I'm begging you. Please help me. I don't have anyone else." I stared at her, torn. Helping her would mean getting involved in the mess I had worked so hard to leave behind. But could I really turn my back on someone in need, no matter how much they had hurt me? Finally, I spoke. "If I help you, I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it because no one deserves to live in fear. But let me be clear, this doesn't mean I've forgiven you. Understood?" She nodded quickly, relief washing over her face. "Thank you, Liam. Thank you." Over the next few weeks, I found myself reluctantly pulled back into Emily's world. She stayed in touch, carefully timing her calls and messages to avoid Ryan's suspicion. Together, we worked on a plan to get her out of the house and into a safe place. It wasn't easy. Ryan had her under constant surveillance, and every step had to be carefully planned. I enlisted the help of a few trusted friends who had connections in domestic abuse shelters. They helped me arrange a safe house for Emily, where she could stay temporarily while she figured out her next steps. The night of her escape was tense. She waited until Ryan left for a business trip, then packed a small bag and slipped out of the house. I picked her up a few blocks away, and we drove in silence to the safe house. She was visibly shaken, but there was also a flicker of hope in her eyes, a glimmer of the Emily I once knew. But just when I thought we were in the clear, things took a turn for the worse. Ryan found out. I don't know how he did it. Maybe he had someone watching her, or maybe he noticed something was off when he got back home. Either way, he showed up at my apartment a few days later, furious. "You think you can steal my wife away from me?" he shouted, his face red with rage. "You've always been jealous of me, haven't you, Liam? First you couldn't stand that Mom and Dad liked me more, and now you're trying to ruin my marriage." I stood my ground, refusing to back down. "This isn't about jealousy, Ryan. This is about you being a controlling, abusive asshole. Emily deserves better." He laughed bitterly. "Better? With you? Don't make me laugh. She'll come crawling back just like everyone else does." But he was wrong. For the first time in years, Emily stood up to him. With the help of the shelter's legal team, she filed for a restraining order and began the process of filing for divorce. It wasn't easy. Ryan fought back, trying to smear her reputation and make her out to be the villain. But Emily held her ground, and with time, she started to rebuild her life. As for me, helping her brought a strange sense of closure. I didn't forgive her for what she had done, but I no longer felt the anger that had consumed me for so long. In a way, helping Emily reminded me of who I was, a person who could rise above the pain and do what was right, even when it wasn't easy. Ryan's actions had destroyed more than one relationship, but in the end, they couldn't destroy me. And for that, I was grateful. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more watching videos.